What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your Overwatch. If you haven't tuned in to the Contenders Playoffs, you've been missing out. Some absolutely wacky team compositions have been in rotation, and we're going to break down this Hammond main tank new era of dive comp here today. But first, few disclaimers, obviously. They aren't playing on our patch. We're on 1.27 now. They're competing on 1.26, which is interesting because although they do have Hammond and the reworked Sombra, they don't have the Ana or Lucio buffs, which might make this metagame even stronger because they're running them without the buffs. But at the same time, the teams that have stuck to this comp the longest have also been eliminated from the Contenders Playoffs. Although there definitely is times where it works spectacularly well, it also isn't the most consistent or refined playstyle yet, but keep in mind that this patch has only been out about a week and a half. So with all of that context, we're going to take a look at what this comp does really well, but also cases of it failing spectacularly because, let's face it, it is a very brittle, skill-based team composition that if you don't play it very well, you can get smashed into oblivion by comps that are honestly easier to play. First up is the most epic initiation you've ever seen. What a lot of these pro teams are playing, with or without Hammond, frankly, is Sombra for her ability now to get perfect initiations. With her invisible stealth, in the poke setup stages of the fight, it's common to see everyone just shooting around blindly trying to find the invisible Sombra, because if you don't, an amazing initiation like this can just fall onto you. Turn up the Miley Cyrus to 11, he came in like a wrecking ball, set up by the scouting set forth by the Gladiators Legion player Corey on Sombra, who's hiding in the backline, able to give information to his entire team of all the positioning of the enemy, and then decloak when the initiation comes through in order to get key focus fire in. Infinite stealth Sombra, without a doubt, was going to make for perfect initiations and really let you control the information game, and in fact, I think she's probably more crucial to this Hammond's main tank playstyle than you might give it credit for, because you have no main shield to play behind. You better know exactly where the enemy is going to be so that when your Hammond goes in, he has all the information to be able to pick the best target possible. Because these initiations are so strong, we're not seeing a lot of Mercy Zen actually. A lot of Lucio Ana or some Zenyatta Ana, because against this, you absolutely need to land some of those key Ana abilities to have a chance against some of these perfect pile driver setups, which is interesting because we already thought Mercy might see a little bit of a play reduction with her nerfs that came through and the support buffs that are also coming, but they're not even playing with that patch at all. They're doing this on the previous patch with just Hammond, Sombra, and Doomfist. Now that Route 66 run shows the full-out aggressive comp in action. When you're always able to have the information of where the enemy's set up, with the Sombra scouting, you're able to get these perfect dives into the backline, and the enemy's going to have some massive struggles in order to deal with your aggression. Now we'll come back to this game later because despite this massive advantage they go in this map, they end up losing this in anticlimactic fashion. But for now, we'll take a few more looks at the comp working and then move on to it failing miserably. Here's an example of Hammond being used on defense, which I think is a massive risk. But when it has worked for the pros, it's worked very well because of how reliably it can kill the enemy's backline. Because remember, on an attacking push, you need your backline to be able to stay alive in order to sustain and keep capturing the point. If the defense here doesn't play to hold point necessarily, but plays for backline aggression, they can sort of pull the rug and the healing resources out from under the attacking team before they're even able to get set up. Most of this is enabled by the infinite invis Sombra, who always knows where the enemy is, can relay that to her teammates, and while lurking in the shadows like they're playing Splinter Cell, Sombra can get a undetected hack off, which makes for easy cleanup for Hammond to come in out of nowhere. Here the Tracer can't blink away, she's hacked. That pile driver damage on squishies is no joke either, and that's the crazy thing about Hammond. He comes in fast and has an insane amount of burst damage for a tank, and things get even scarier now for the attacking team to take any space anywhere, because at any point, Infinite Invis Sombra can just EMP everybody, making for one of the cleanest engages you can have. You hit multiple targets with that EMP, Hammond and Doomfist are just going to clean up. Now, this defensive counter dive works great for quite a while until Rascal gets the key EMP off on the diving Wrecking Ball, which is a play you're going to see quite often. Sombra, with her ability to target with hack, which isn't too much of a skill shot. It's mostly auto target, right, with her normal right click hack, but also EMP is quite instant, has a big area of effect, so as long as you hit that Hammond before he lands on your whole team, you have a pretty good chance of catching this engagement, punishing the aggression, and let's face it, the necessary dive that this type of comp has to utilize in order to get any value out of their tanks. But the problem is, there's few things in the entire game, other than maybe Sombra, that can easily punish Hammond's trapeze artist-esque Spider-Man flinging engages. Like, look at this retake onto the Streets phase. NRG Esports has Sombra, McCree, Ana, the Discord Orb, all manner of stuff that's attempting to stop Hammond, but the hack just barely falls out of range here, and if you don't land that ability, big pile driver and even bigger rolling knocks using that grappling hook speed. Remember, each one of those individual hits is 50 damage. Even if you land the anti-nade onto the Doomfist and Hammond here, it kind of doesn't matter because both of them gain shields on the initiation, and it's not like Ana is going to be able to hit many shots as she's getting bobbled around. And you might say to yourself, well, that means you should be playing Mercy, right? We may show some footage of this coming up, but Mercy does not want to play against this at all. You're much better off having the options to at least land a skill shot onto this type of engage on you. Unless Mercy has a Pharah in the sky to escape to in the air, Guardian Angel is no longer the get out of jail free card that it used to be when your movement pursuit from this three-pronged attack with the Hammond, Doomfist, and Sombra, you're just not really getting away. Now, these last couple fights on Streets phase were actually incredible learning tools because we see the combination of multiple things in play. Ults building up on both sides. Gladiator's Legion sends in their Hammond with Nano Boost to try to give him some extra durability, but he gets hit with every type of CC available. This time, they do land the hack, the sleep dart, chain stun destroys him. I think if they were a little bit early on the self-destruct with the Diva there, they could have really punished all of that CC that was landing into their hamster's face, but still, Legion is able to bring it back with an EMP and Meteor Strike, and that's kind of the cool thing about this comp. You have a lot of escapes and big bursts of impact that you can come through on any of these heroes, and even as NRG won the start of the initiation, they end up losing out to some of the other ultimates. But there's the extra problem that this really aggressive style of comp requires you to pull out those ultimates to win fights. So going into this last engagement, NRG actually has a big ultimate advantage, but let's see how they end up playing around this. With basically only sound barrier going into this last fight, one of the best ways to outplay the Sombra EMP is trying to hide your Lucio away and bait the EMP onto something other than him, so he can come in with the clutch sound barrier to save your team and buffer from any follow-up on the EMP, and that's what they do here. Panker's Hammond baits out the EMP from actually a relatively safe initiation over the cart. He doesn't even go deep here. Sound barrier answers, the fight gets really messy, and the most important thing is the fight goes on long enough for the impact ults to build up again. Nano Boost is able to get launched onto the Doomfist, which keeps him alive. The Wrecking Ball Minefield comes up, and they're just able to now go aggressively at the enemy and get an impressive Streets hold. Now again, we'll have to come back to this map because they do end up losing this map somehow as well, despite this massive advantage that they got on Kings. You don't hold Streets phase on Kings. That's not really a thing. And also what isn't a thing is losing a map after you get a hold on Streets phase. One more example of the comp working really well. This time we are going to see the triple DPS look from both teams here actually, trying to use the Mercy as solo heal on the attack, who's going to attempt to evade all of these different damage threats and hopefully get a res off. And what we're going to see here, the Sombra Tracer synergy, especially on this map, is incredibly good because Sombra can continue to do all of her infinite stealth infiltration tactics, but with the hacked health packs now, Tracer is able to get a big boon in her aggression because she always can retreat to some of those buffed health packs. And even though NRG are starting to get some frags and openings into this point, because the Sombra hack on the Mega creates such a powerful home base beacon for the Gladiators defense to play around, it keeps their Ana alive who can sit on that pack, and all her mobility teammates can swarm around the point looking for frags, even after an incredibly prolonged prolonged fight, NRG doesn't even get a tick out of this. Now here NRG are trying to set up for the EMP Dragon Blade, but off screen, but it's going to fail. Somehow the Zenyatta doesn't get EMP'd, so he's able to trance, and although there may have been a window for the Dragon Blade to then come in after that, he gets hacked and easily focused down, and the attacking side just can't really handle this. Even though the Gladiators Legion are a very squishy team, they're so mobile and have so much fragging at their disposal, all they need are those hacked health packs to sustain. But still, in the mess of that fight, Pooks, who was playing on that turreted Ana in the back, had to go to Lucio in order to run back to the point, foregoing that ultimate, and now NRG is reapproaching with a big ult advantage. However, Gladiators know their win condition here. Infiltrate with the Sombra and get info on where the Genji is so he can't blade, at least not effectively. They get a hack onto him and he's going low. So this is the window that they need to exploit. Gladiators commits in. Granted, they only end up getting the solo heal Mercy, and the blade does come out, but they were able to force it in a suboptimal situation, and now chaotic playmaking ensues. Rolf is able to get off a Transcendence, which helps guarantee a frag, and now that big run back starts to come into effect. Hammond is back to the point in seconds, already able to commit to some more point presence, and into the waning seconds of this attack, it's anybody's game still. Big EMP comes through, they pop a bunch of ultimates into the front line, and this looks like a very winnable fight, but somehow Fozix is able to escape the minefield and gets the res off onto the main tank who had Primal Rage, and that's going to be the difference maker right there. The one fight they finally don't end up killing the Mercy in, she gets a res off on a key target with an ultimate, and that's all the difference. I wonder if they would have put the minefield on the objective when you know the enemy has to jump on it in overtime, if they would have saw a bit more value out of it. One thing I've noticed is that pro players don't really run into these mines very often, so at the higher end of play, I think really the best that you can hope for is just getting some aerial denial, and it's got to be on the most important area. A choke point that the enemy is going to have to go through is a good idea as well, but I think in the waning seconds of overtime, just spreading it cleanly across the objective is probably a good way to go as well, because somebody has to contest. Playing Hammond on defense is a big risk, but Volskaya as a map, since your respawn advantage is severe, and you can't really afford for the attacking team to get set up, or they're going to just crossfire you on the point and end up winning, getting active to guarantee some kills has seen the Wrecking Ball strats work very well in Contenders thus far. Despite not winning many series, it's definitely won Volskaya, and it ends up working here as well, because you can just go attack the backline, similar to how you wanted to do with Sombra EMP counter engages on this map anyway in previous versions of the character. Now you just wait for the enemy to attempt to take some space and go send your big impact melee dive into the enemy's backline, and as long as you end up getting the Mercy, you're looking quite good, because you have a respawn right next to the point and they don't. This is kind of the problem for backlines right now, because really good Hammond play just gets free kills on supports. And from what we've seen thus far, I think Hammond and these new age dives, aided by the infinite stealth Sombra, looks most convincing on any map that has these really set engagements like Volskaya, where the enemy has to be sort of set up in a certain way and you're looking to attack into them. We can see here how methodically that the Gladiators Legion start to execute their resources into this B attack. Knowing how to do the counter engage Hammond themselves, they sort of wait around up here to try to catch Swan as he comes in. He notices they're waiting for him, so he rolls on back. But now, without pressure onto them and the counter-engage cooldowns offline, now they're able to press W and go in. Blase pulls out the Dragon Blade. Rascal tries to respond with his own Nano Blade. However, the Lucio sound barrier is on point, and a pretty interesting footsie battle back and forth as these teams try to use their ultimates without dying. So they end up trading out. Gladiators goes in yet again, this time with the minefield, and with the aid of the Wrecking Ball swing tactics, grab a tick on the point, but as he gets hacked, starts to back off, wait, get their cooldowns back, and through the chaos of all of this, Blase was actually able to charge up another Dragon Blade, this time aided by Corey's EMP, and EMP Dragon Blade is a combo that I think we're going to see a lot. Whether it's the mid-fight of the Doomfist or the basic engage of the Wrecking Ball, when most of the team's EMP'd, it's easy cleanup for everything, but I think Dragon Blade is going to be best when you need the enemy to die quickly. So now, after seeing the comp work, let's look at some examples of it not working. Pay close attention to this rollout on Lijiang Tower. The enemy is running goats, 3 tanks, 3 supports, best close range brawl comp in the game, and the Legion attempt to do the pile driver seismic slam combination, but the reason why I don't think this is very good is that seismic slam requires the targets to be on the ground, so launching them up in the air unintentionally is an anti-synergy for this combo to work. Oddly enough, you would need the Doomfist to initiate first in order to hit that seismic slam, then knock them up in the air. That's how you might actually get this to work, but typically you want your tank to go in first, so maybe that's an optimization we see move forward as the hamster playstyle starts to get developed over time. Also, I think that's a great example of why not just have a Pharah there over the top? Why are we overcomplicating it here with the Doomfist, which I know is a durable character that can go in with Hammond as well? I just think if you isolate a target, pile drive it up for almost 100 damage, and a rocket comes in, that's like an instant kill right there, especially if you damage amp the Pharah. But as well, let's take a look at King's Row, a map that I couldn't believe that Legion ended up losing. Here, they get a nano boost onto their Genji, and so many different damage threats coming at NRG, they just sort of crumble. But the big retake comes in with Nano on D.Va to keep her alive, and Panker goes for an unthinkable engage. Despite him playing quite sick throughout this series, this is a map-losing mistake. He must have assumed that they weren't going to attempt a retake here and was looking for some stagger eliminations, or maybe he thought his team was going to be able to follow up, but he initiates onto most of NRG and just absorbs tons of abilities into his face, which is not how you play Hammond. I know he gets that adaptive shield, but with Discord Orb, Sleep Dart, and Anti-Nade all landing on you at once, you're just going to die. I think with him being so close to his ultimate, he was trying to get it in time to drop the minefield in the choke, which would have made it very hard to retake here, but the thing is, Hammond isn't Winston. A Winston engage right there would have been insane to zone out the Ana. Drop one bubble, fight it up a little bit, absorb some cooldowns, and jump out. Winston engaging there might have been okay, but as it is, he engages by himself, the big retake comes through, and now Gladiator's time is running out to be able to even cap A, much less finish Streets phase. And it's fights like these that I think we can expect pro play to get refined over time, because they have enough ults to make the plays in order to get this to work. They just don't really land them in the right succession in order to convincingly take this fight. They get the opening with the Dragon Blade, frags trade back and forth, but NRG's backline aggression comes through much stronger, and they end up winning that fight. Going on to the last one now, Corey with the very sneaky stealth Sombra set up here for a perfect hack, eliminates Rascal. Watch his ult charge, because him coming on the retake here is going to be one of the most heroic plays I've seen in the playoffs thus far. Blase gets traded out, and that's just kind of an unacceptable death, considering he was building up to his Dragon Blade right there. Still a winnable game at this point. The Transcendence comes out, want to wait to use the EMP until that is done. Gets a big one, 3 members hacked, but he isn't able to capitalize on the kills. Meanwhile, Rascal doesn't need a Dragon Blade. He's got Doomfist and does a ton of damage in that brawl, taking part in all of the kills here. And it's been a while since we've seen these dive v dive type engagements, because of course Mercy with her mid-fight res has been so strong, but between the infiltration of Sombra, NRG didn't even need the Hammond in order to retake cleanly there. The Sombra and Doomfist going at the back line was enough. And of course, to note, whereas they did get a lot of value out of the Hammond initiations on defense, oddly enough, it's on the attack, where the enemy was running those counter dive defenses themselves, that the hamster couldn't really find any clean engagements that mattered, which has kind of been the issue with Hammond throughout the playoffs. It feels like you're going to have to swap between Hammond or Winston or a different main tank more often than the contenders teams who have been running him have been doing. In fact, they just typically run him all the time, and I think that's probably a mistake. You're either going to get value out of the basic insta-kill that Hammond sets up, or you're not. For example, despite having a huge lead on this Route 66 map that we showed at the start of the video, on NRG's attack, they go Mei Sombra and are just able to ride the cart and set up for freeze and Mei walls in order to catch the engagement from the Hammond, making me wonder what's the point of going for this all-out aggro offensive playstyle on defense, whereas a character like Winston is far less effective at securing kills himself, but he just stays alive way way longer, which on the defense, often all you need is a tank to be able to touch the cart, absorb some cooldowns, and just buy time for your attacking characters to get kills themselves, or even just stay alive and wait and drain clock off. Because despite their attacking side being spectacular with a 3-minute time bank, their defense there was paper thin as well. And then going on to the final overtime round, despite successfully holding the enemy to around the corner on big Earls with 3 minutes to go, NRG goes for a very interesting adaptation, running Goats comp, but this time, instead of the Zarya, they run a Sombra, who is very powerful at stopping Hammond and Doomfist, and that's going to be the demise of Gladiator's Legion, because NRG plays the objective well here, stalls the cart, and just makes it annoying and expensive for them to get any progress in these fights, that even though Gladiators does end up clearing these rats out of this hole, they're able to come back with an EMP re-engage, re-establish, and get this into a final engage. Which, yes, looking back at this, I do think the Legion had the opportunity with multiple ults here in order to seal out this map. You can just see how much easier it is for the defense to play this mostly Goats comp on the cart, waiting for the good setup to come in, and because Legion are a bit rushed here, it's frantic, time's waning down, they have members who make individual mistakes and it ends up failing. I also want to point out that a few times, just in general, the Legion threw out ultimates in winning fights to go get stagger kills, which I think is a big mistake. When you're running this incredibly aggressive offensive comp, you need your ultimates to be able to swing back an advantage as the enemy starts to land abilities and gain an advantage on you, rather than using them to clean up fights, because then you're just out of resources. Doomfist here ends up using his Meteor Strike just to avoid the very embarrassing self-inflicted death he was about to get, but 10 seconds? There's plenty of time for him to come back into the fight with Doomfist's very quick run back time from spawn on the rollout, and even could have used Meteor Strike to get back into the fight and be a threat on the cart. Big waste of ultimate there, and despite having a very clear opportunity to come back into this map and then push it into a map 5, which they may still have lost anyway, this early rendition of Hammond comps comes to a very anticlimactic end, losing the series 3-1. But despite its failures, I think we've seen some really interesting stuff out of the new character, and frankly, new characters with the rework Sombra. Food for thought and things to look forward to, especially coming into the World Cup that's coming up. Hammond is a legit threat that you have to look out for, prepare for, or he will carry games. And just the mere threat of him alone looks like it's sort of pushed the ranged sniper meta out of existence, because no longer can you just rely on Mercy getting those reses or Widow to hit headshots. Hammond's initiations are way too impactful. You're not keeping that Mercy alive if they dedicate resources into killing her. So if nothing else, even if Hammond as a character isn't going to be the most effective, he's definitely having an impact on what these top level players are even capable of playing. What did you guys think of today's video? If you enjoyed it, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, because we upload each and every day, so you're going to want to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. See you guys next time.